Have you ever had that feeling, where your family's all living under the same roof, but you might as well be on different planets emotionally? Well, it turns out a play written, get this, over 80 years ago might just be the clearest mirror for the kinds of unspoken stuff we're all dealing with today. So yeah, let's dive right in. To really get to the heart of this, I want to start with a really direct question. Just think about it for a second. With all the complicated, messy dynamics in any family, what's the single most dangerous thing? It's probably not what you think. It's not anger, it's not even fighting. It's something way, way quieter. Yeah, it's silence. It's all the things that are left unsaid, the feelings that get ignored, the pain that just sits there and festers in the empty spaces between people. And that silence? That's exactly what we're going to unpack. So, here's the game plan. First, we're going to look at this idea of unspoken pain through the lens of a classic play. Then, we'll see how things like communication, addiction, and the good old generation gap have and haven't changed. And finally, we'll pull out the big lessons that honestly are just as relevant now as they were then. Okay, so let's get into our case study. We're talking about the work of playwright Eugene O'Neill. And you gotta understand, this guy was not interested in happy endings. He wanted to show the raw, unfiltered truth of family life. And this quote, wow, it says it all, doesn't it? O'Neill's own family was a mess of addiction and emotional turmoil. So for him, this wasn't just a theory. He took all that pain and poured it onto the stage, believing that theater should be a mirror to our real struggles, not some cheerful escape. And his most personal play, This Is the One, Long Day's Journey into Night, it does exactly that. Imagine taking a whole lifetime of resentment, secrets, and blame, and cramming it all into one single pressure cooker of a day. That's the play. And you can just watch the slow-motion implosion happen. The day starts out with everyone being sort of polite, that fragile piece. But as the day wears on, the cracks start to show. By afternoon, old arguments are being thrown around, and by midnight, boom, the whole thing just completely falls apart. So let's meet the family at the center of this storm. Every single one of them is trapped. You've got the father, James, who's so terrified of being poor again that he's emotionally closed off. The mother, Mary, lost in her morphine addiction. And the sons, Jamie and Edmund, who are just drowning in booze, sarcasm, and a desperate need to be understood. They talk at each other all day long, but nobody is actually listening. And all of this, it really boils down to this one key idea: emotional neglect. This is the invisible poison in the Tyrone house. It's not about hitting or yelling. It's about the absence of something. It's the failure to show up for someone, to see their pain. It's what's not done that does all the damage. Okay, so let's start making some connections. How does this communication breakdown from a century ago echo in our own lives right now? All right, look at this. On the left, you've got the Tyrone's communication style: blame, sarcasm, denial. Basically, using words as weapons. Now, look at the right. Sound familiar? Maybe we're not as dramatic, but our methods are just quieter. We use our busy schedules, we stare at our phones. We're just creating a different kind of silence, but the result is the same: a total failure to connect. But here's where things get interesting and maybe a little hopeful. For the Tyrones, every single fight just leads to more bitterness. It's a dead end. But today, we've at least started to talk about the idea that conflict can actually lead to growth. We have words like healing and forgiveness that just weren't part of their world. There's at least a potential for a different outcome. All right, let's pivot to another huge theme in this story: addiction. Because wow, has our understanding of this changed? In the Tyrone's world, addiction was a character flaw, a deep, dark, shameful secret. Mary's drug use, Jamie's drinking, it was all seen as a moral failing, and the family just responded with blame and denial. Now, contrast that with today. We're getting so much better at seeing addiction for what it is: a health issue, something often tied to trauma or mental health, something that needs treatment and empathy, not judgment. Next up, a conflict that is as old as time itself: the constant battle between parents and their kids. The details change, but the core struggle, it's pretty much the same. The father, James, is all about financial security because he grew up poor. But his sons, they just want a dad who listens. Sound familiar? Maybe today it's not about money, but about different values. Tradition versus independence, for example. But that basic disconnect between what a parent thinks is important and what a child actually needs emotionally, that's timeless.
So after all this, why? Why do we keep coming back to this incredibly painful story? What's the point? What does it have to teach us right here, right now? Because the Tyrone family tragedy is like a giant warning sign. It teaches us that any pain you try to bury doesn't go away. It will always, always come back. It proves that silence is so much more toxic than even the ugliest, most honest fight. And it screams at us that our emotional needs are just as vital as food and water. Ultimately, their story points to the only way out of these cycles: empathy. Just trying to understand where someone else's pain is coming from, that's where healing begins.
And that brings it all back home, doesn't it? This play is filled with the echoes of a family's unspoken history. So the question for us is, in the quiet moments in your own life, with your own family, what echoes are you listening for?